Hey Josh,
Brother.
how are you, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Looks like you're a guitar player.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah. Nice. Are those all yours?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. This is the garage of my house. The previous owner like built in, and so this is kind of my room where I have all my stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Looks like a music studio. You got all the sound stuff on the wall and
yeah.
everything.
It's
Nice.
just, it's just some cheap foam I bought, but it helped keep it a little more reasonable.
Yeah, that's good. So are you like a worship pastor or are you
No,
um,
I'm a chaplain in the county jail right now,
okay, good. So where exactly are you at in Texas?
north of Dallas. It's in Denton,
Okay. Yep.
like an hour north of Dallas.
I went to I went to the college at Southwestern years ago.
Oh, really? Okay,
Just for a year. So I lived in Fort Worth there for 10 months or so.
okay.
So a little bit. I mean, I love Fort Worth. Fort Worth was a beautiful city.
I grew up in Arlington, which is just 30 minutes from Fort Worth, so I know the area very well.
Yeah,
I'm real close to there now anyway.
yeah. I'm kind of envious of your guys' more mild weather.
Are you in Canada now?
Yeah, so I'm from Alberta, Canada.
Uh-huh.
So if you go straight north of Montana,
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of Calgary.
Yeah.
So I'm just north of there, about an hour.
And are
So
you doing mostly correspondence?
actually, I just finished. Well, so this is my last course.
Mine too.
We were down in Louisville for 3.5 years.
Okay.
And I did most of my stuff there. And then
Oh, great.
I walked in May. I walked the stage, and then they let me do that with one outstanding class. So I
I
came back
see.
here for work and stuff. Yeah.
Are you a pastor?
Not yet. So there's a couple churches I'm talking to. I'm a pastoral assistant at a church down in Calgary. So doing a lot of kind of admin stuff, odds and ends, whatever they kind of need done. So
Awesome.
yeah. Hey Matthew,
Hey, Matt.
I don't hear any audio on you, brother.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
There we
got
go.
you, man.
Sounds good. Awesome.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. That's a boss beard, man.
Thanks. Been a few years.
How long? I was gonna say, how long did that take you?
It took me about a year to get to somewhere around this length, and that's just kept it around there. So
That's
Very
awesome.
nice.
what are you guys up to today?
I'm trying to stay warm. It's snowing where I'm at, so um,
It's like
finishing off.
65 here today.
Yeah, it's probably about 25 Fahrenheit. I
Wow.
think in Celsius, so I always got to translate for
Oh, okay.
My
Yeah.
American friends.
Yeah. Matt,
Yeah.
you're in Ohio, is that right?
I'm in Ohio. Surprisingly, it's not snowing here.
Really?
Yeah, we have about 40, so it's raining. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's bearable.
Yeah, I wish it was 65.
Man, I tell you what, I've never experienced a real winter in my whole life. I'm a 30-year Texan, and we're moving in like 6 months to go plant a church in Massachusetts. So that's going to be
You will get snow.
so incredibly different.
Probably different. No doubt.
Definitely will.
Yeah,
So, are you guys being sent out by a church or going with an organization, or how is that working?
we're with NAM, and that was kind of a secondary deal. I go to the Village here in Texas,
Okay.
the Village Denton, and they're actually not our sending church. 3 families from my church are all going. 2 of them are already up there. The planting church is actually in Rhode Island. And the guy who's the pastor there was one of Mark Dever's first interns. So it's kind of in the 9 Marks kind of type of plant. And so the proximity will be pretty close. It's like 45 minutes away from the actual planting church. So more or less, it's more that church planting us. And NAM just kind of really is our kind of funding pipeline, honestly.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Cool. Good. And you, Matt, you're like are you doing like youth, young adults?
I'm a young adult director at Cuyahoga Valley Church. It's a larger church in the area of Northeast Ohio. And eventually I plan to be a pastor who trains pastors overseas.
Mhm.
So whether it's staying mostly in the States, there we go, and traveling overseas every so often and then teaching, or or being a part of a seminary overseas and then training up over there. So
Cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
How do y'all each feel about your preaching overall in the semester, and then in particular this last one?
That's one area. I really think preaching is one area that I need to really hone in on and really work on myself, because I haven't had many opportunities to do it. And I find myself to be more teaching minded. So it's harder for me to kind of get the very, I guess, emphasis in certain areas and how that works with my walking around, mobility, and even using my hands correctly. So just the presentation of it's the big part for me. So
Yeah, I think similar kind of thing. Ironically, I had less opportunities to preach when I was down in Louisville doing my schooling there. Just the church that we were at was a bigger church. There wasn't as many opportunities there for that kind of stuff. So the last 2.5, 3 years have been a little less of that. So I'm looking forward to hopefully doing it more on a regular basis. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things that you can read 1,000 of these books, right? But until you actually do it and start honing some of these things. So it's been good to kind of highlight some of my things, even looking back on the videos that I've recorded of myself, like, okay, I do these little weird things. Let's try to tweak them, right?
I've heard Kevin DeYoung say it takes somewhere between 100 and 200 sermons before you even know your own voice, like your own style. And I find that that's true. I don't yet know really well how I work through a passage and deliver it. I felt most confident on this probably very last one, but even still every time, and I think this is probably what preaching is anyway, but you walk away going, about 70% of that was okay, but there's 30 I'd like to be different, But I was pleased to be able to preach. That's my father-in-law's church. I preached at twice, and they always welcome us really warmly. So those were both just great experiences.
Good.
Yeah, I know something that this class really helped is because the first time I did the preaching class, I was mostly focused in preaching for the youth, and that got me a few opportunities to do for that. And then this time around, I got to do it in front of the whole congregation, and then I even got to help with one of our church plants, because we were big in supporting our church plants that are around the area. And this last one was with it's called Refuge Community Church. It's a very very homeless, addiction focused church plant, so that they're in this building that's run by a different church that's kind of like the older independent fundamental Baptist, and they're just using the facility at the night times on Friday nights, and they're able to preach to the people that you would not expect to see in the pew on a normal Sunday at any church. So it's a good opportunity, and I also got to see how much of a rest it is for a pastor, like the guy that I preached for, to just rest for a week. And so he's just like, I was so excited to just be able to sit under the preaching of somebody else for once. And so that's helped inspire me to kind of look towards the other opportunities that we have with our church plants, and kind of see who needs a break. See who can take that week break, and if they need me to fill in, that'd be great. So it offers some opportunities in those areas.
Yeah, man, that's super. That's good.
That's good. Yeah, I found just even thinking about it, so it was kind of somewhat unrealistic of what being a full-time lead pastor will be like, because I had 2 or 3 weeks or a month break between sermons. I was invited to this church or that church. So there's something different, I think, about, having the pressure of, I've got 5 days, 6 days to prep my next sermon kind of thing. And it brings it to more realistic terms, I guess, how you can, you can't guarantee that you're going to have 30 or 40 hours to spend on a sermon, right?
Right.
We've got other things to do. So those things over time are, I think, skills that I desire to hone. But until you're into the pressure cooker, it really doesn't force you to do that in that way, right? So that's kind of the next thing that I'm looking to is, okay, what's that going to be like?
Yeah.
I think definitely like for modern day, I guess, North American churches, we have the idea that the pastor is going to be spending maybe 5 hours on sermon prep a week and then 35 hours counseling, shepherding the body, when it's really should be something closer to that 15 to 20 hours spent in sermon prep each week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I find that I really wrestle with that long length of time leading up to the sermon. And I don't know if this is an idiosyncrasy with me or if this is something you guys experienced, but even if I had tons of study, maybe a week out, I couldn't write it until like Friday or Saturday. Like my brain would not engage. And I have all the things that I want to do, but I'd sit down on Wednesday night, Thursday night, and just nothing would happen. And I don't know if there was a sense where I thought, kind of back in my mind, maybe there's something else to take from the text or whatever. But once Friday and Saturday come, I write the thing completely and happy with it. But I really wish I could write it. And this happened for all three. I wish I could write it on Thursday, because then when I run it through Friday, Saturday, I can, I always walk away going, I wish there was greater continuity. I wish these had connected, or this through line was better. And that's something I really hope to either learn by discipline or grow in, maybe just by, like you said, preaching more often. You kind of have to.
yeah. I think I found myself this time was as I studied, because I was like, what churches can I reach out to? And I reached out to this guy. He's like, yeah, Proverbs 6, do that. I was like, okay. So I was looking through Proverbs 6 for like 3 weeks, kind of seeing like what to hone in on. And when I settled on this one, I just kept coming up with like, I had my mind thinking of like, this is what you need to say. This is what you need to say kind of thing. And I never wrote it down, which is kind of the problem. So I need to like carry a small journal or something like this to write those things down and be able to implement them in. Because it's like, oh, I wish I would have remembered exactly what I was thinking that Tuesday, but it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shall we address our sermon in particular and then kind of go around?
Sure.
All right, Josh, let's take yours.
Okay.
Oops. Well, I enjoyed you both immensely. I think you're a stellar teacher, Josh. I hate these ratings so much. The numbers, like it irks me so badly, because I feel like I want to give you something accurate and something encouraging, and it's just like the numbers are so bad. But so if you want the numbers, I'll give them. But I felt like your exegetical accuracy was stellar. You were tight. Everything was obviously from the word. You're carefully regarding each phrase and taking careful consideration of what the passage in the psalm there was saying. I thought you stood behind the authority of God, and even said that this is what Asaph is doing is in his instruction. He's saying this authority is God's and not mine. I thought your structure was helpful from the outset. You kind of when you were breaking things apart, we had a clear picture of what that was coming from. Your illustrations and your application were excellent. It was so clear that it was from a father who is feeling these things and who desires the church would love her children well. I thought that was just it came through so beautifully. And always I felt that your delivery is clear and with passion and authority, and supernatural authority, always top notch. Sounds like this is the word of God being preached. And I mean, I loved it. I was very encouraged by it.
Yeah, I think definitely with the exegetical accuracy, like you really tied in a lot of different verses from a lot of different sections I was picking up, whether it was explicit in your teaching or if it was just coming from your study in general of scripture. Is that I kept picking up like, oh, this is reminiscent of a passage here. This is reminiscent of a passage here that you kept using. And I think opening up your sermon with the like, this is not my authority, not my right thinking, but rather this is this authority of God behind this is very important. And I was like, I was following along with the text. I'm like, this is great. So, you know, I don't really have anywhere else to I don't have any other critiques of any sort. So it'd be a 10 for me for this list. But
come on, give me something, man. Give me something.
I know. I feel the same way when I finish up. I'm like, give me the criticism, but like exegetical accuracy, I think you were really, really spot on with.
I genuinely didn't. You want to be helpful in encouraging your brothers who are going to stand in the pulpit without being critical unfairly. I don't have something to offer you. I'm sorry. I felt like it was a balanced and strong sermon, really.
Yeah, I think
I appreciate the encouragement.
Somewhere else, I'll be able to offer some criticism, but not in this one. So,
I mean, one of the things that I think, or a couple things that I feel are some of my weaknesses. First, just being sometimes too tied to the notes. I feel myself. I usually write out a manuscript, so I'm wanting to kind of toy around with different ways of doing that, just very practically. But then secondly, man, I always just feel the, I guess the pressure that you want to make sure all your T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And so in some ways, I feel like I'm sometimes dumping too much stuff, right? So I bring in this, I bring in that, bring in this. And to the point where, maybe people just get lost. And I guess the way I approach it, I say, well, if they get one or two of those things and they leave out the other 5, I'm happy, kind of thing. Yeah. And maybe they'll get 2 and the next person beside them will get the other 2 that the other guy didn't get, kind of thing.
Yeah. Josh, I really think this sermon didn't have that. I think I mentioned in one of the first ones, it was sometimes like drinking from a fire hose. I really feel like this last one was balanced. There was never a point where I was going, this point is being overshadowed by this one. It really was well balanced. And I hear that from you and just say, man, this one went really well.
Yeah, this one I think out of your 3 was the best with being able, because the first time I heard you, I was like, wow, that is a lot being thrown out in different directions. And then when you hone this in on the family life and the training up a child, you really just you made it very applicable to the people. At least I think, I'm not sure what your whole situation is there and what the struggles are in that community or how family life is, but it sounded like really, really you were driving home the point of you as a parent are responsible for training up your children in this way. So like that's what I really felt was getting really driven, and it was really solidly backed up in the way that you were doing it.
Amen.
So.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So just minor. I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Are we going through the whole list, or are we just gonna kind of summarize each other's thing?
Whatever you think, man.
Yes, I mean, just some minor stuff that I had with you. Did you have like a specific illustration besides father or like from a father to a son or from middle family base in your sermon at all?
I'm trying to think back a couple weeks. I don't think so. I can't remember, honestly.
Yeah. So that was the only thing, like I didn't pick up on one, but I know that it's very easy for if you need, I'm not one who, this is the hard part, is I never require an illustration when I listen, I always love just listening to teaching. I don't need an illustration per se.
Yeah.
I'm not the one person to ask in this situation. So I'm always very looking out for it for people. And so it's like, where was that illustration? That was that, as well as I think we all 3 of us kind of struggle with the idea or struggle with the ability to inflect our voice. I'm not sure if you guys agree with that or not. I'm very monotone and I just get louder or softer, but I don't change the inflection of my voice. So,
that's another very practical thing that I've been wanting to kind of hone.
Yeah. So I don't know how to, but that's where I'm at. And you had a very solid gospel presentation at the end. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, let's take the bearded man's. Well, I guess you guys both have beards, so
the massive
beard.
Let's take the big bearded man.
Okay.
Well, I thought, again, I loved the gospel turn, talking about exegetical accuracy in the passage when you began to talk on this deeper this deeper problem we had than simply procrastination or laziness. I thought that was a strong and clear turn to our need for Christ. I loved, again, your emphasis on the authority of the Bible, and a really clear and unapologetic's not the best word for what I'm trying to say, but your doctrine of sin was just clear and helpful, that this is a heinous thing. It's not something we should view lightly. I thought you defined the sluggard well, and especially your use of scriptures, kind of moving around the book and moving around scriptures, your illustrations and application, talking about like Facebook and laziness in relationships and types of laziness and procrastination. Man, that hits home. That's just right on for almost anybody. I can't imagine anybody that not being close to home. So I thought those things were very poignant, really kind of settled your sermon into the here and now of the people who are hearing you. I thought your delivery was engaging. I felt like you were natural and clear. You kind of mentioned in the first one that you felt like you were a little, I feel like you mentioned this, maybe it was Josh that said it, but I thought you were natural and easy to listen to. I thought the supernatural authority was so present that God addresses sin. It's not as though we're going to diagnose it. By his word, you approach sin, exposed it in your own heart, and then it was met with the gospel. I enjoyed it. I was built up by it. If I had one thing to say, and I perhaps you would say the same, I thought maybe you could spend maybe another minute and a half, 2 minutes on how Christ is that perfect wisdom, how he does. And maybe I overlooked this, but I thought once you made that big turn, I would have enjoyed a little bit more of Jesus is the one who has perfectly been wise and has perfectly, fulfilled this wisdom that we're being called to.
Yeah.
I thought it was stellar, man. Very good.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that I really thought afterwards was like I should have spent more time in these areas, and that was one of them. Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I agree with that last point. That was kind of my main critique of, I guess if you want to call it a critique of your sermon. Just that it kind of, in some ways, it felt like it was such a quick transition, and then it just kind of dissipated from there in a sense. I really appreciated how you went to Proverbs 1:7 as the key to the book, and just kind of how that underlies everything. It's, everything's the call to not lazy is undergirded by this call first to fear the Lord, right? So I thought that was really good that you made that clear. But just the transition to Christ itself, it seemed sometimes maybe a little forced, maybe a little quick. So maybe just showing people, going to the New Testament, showing like, hey, Jesus is the perfect embodiment of wisdom. And you can look at his entire life, right? You look at him and you want to see what a hardworking, non-lazy person looks like. Look to Christ. Just in his relationships, in his spiritual life, nothing about him was lazy.
Yeah.
In his earthly life as a human being, he's the perfect embodiment of wisdom. Just give him maybe just one example from the New Testament, kind of maybe, and that would be, I think, a good way of even illustrating. You get your illustration and gospel in there as well.
Yeah.
But other than that, brother, I honestly thought this was your best sermon. Your presentation was good. It was clear. You're like me, kind of. I think sometimes you stick to your notes a little bit, or you just feel comfortable. Okay, I don't want to get lost.
I already know what I'm going to say. It's right here.
Yeah. So, and Lloyd Jones would tell you, "Let the Spirit lead you." But no, I honestly though, I thought you looked natural. It wasn't like you were. You didn't look nervous or anything. So that I think overall that was the best sermon that you've preached. And I can see even improvement over these last three.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Jens, just a note. I think we have about 10 minutes left. When I set up this account, it says you have 40 minutes for these basic meeting, so we have about 10 minutes left because I
Okay,
started
yeah.
at 125 or wherever y'all are, 225.
Good to know.
Okay.
Well, let's take you and see
Yeah,
where.
so you had such a long text to have to preach through. That is, I was like, you're tackling all of these in this time. But I think you did it well. You really, like, you had your focuses, and that's when each of your focuses was a great point to kind of really drive home who Asaph was getting at. And I think that the exegetical accuracy there was very solid. And just being able to demonstrate that clearly to the congregation was good. And your transitions were very smooth, I felt. I felt like I wasn't being tossed from here to there and all throughout this different section, but I felt like, okay, yes, I see Asaph here focusing on himself. Like he's using the word I, understandable, very easy to come across to people. And then the what you brought out of that was really good. And especially the your opening, connecting with people, being able to like say, like we all struggle in these areas, or even like the personal connections that you made with the text, as well as the very real connections that we experienced today was very solid. And so that created a good, I'm not sure if that's what an illustration is, but that's what it comes across as for them. If that's what you meant it or not, but it felt like we could connect as listeners to what you were saying, and it was really good.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah. No, same thing. You had a big chunk of text, and big chunks of text are hard to preach. And I feel the pressure myself when I look at a big piece, like, okay, how do I be faithful to the text and yet not go on for 80 minutes kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you did a great job summarizing it. Your structure was really helpful. I think how you broke it down just by those pronouns. That's one of the things, again, that I'm trying to work on, is not trying to have just kind of a cookie cutter approach to structuring sermons. So that was really helpful for me just to see it from that angle. Very Christ-centered. I really appreciated your illustration from Jaws as well. That just kind of helped me. Yeah, that when David comes to the temple, the dolly zoom, right? When he comes to the temple, he gets everything just reframed, right? He doesn't necessarily change, but everything else around him just gets reframed and refocused in a different light. So that was really just a vivid way to put it in concrete terms. You did a great job making connection between Christ and the tabernacle, calling us to come to Christ humbly. So there's a very clear gospel presentation.
yeah.
Very, very clear invitation, which I really appreciated. As Reformed guys, sometimes we're a little bit hesitant to do that, but that was just very clear invitation: come to Christ, come to Christ. One of the things that I was thinking, and I don't know how much time you had, but maybe make even more explicit, I guess, the connection between David and then showing from the New Testament Christ being the new temple, and specifically how Christ, gazing upon the person of Christ and his work, actually it reshapes our entire perspective of suffering and evil, right?
Yeah.
So that's the major thing that Asaph's dealing with in that text. So how the cross reshapes our perspective on evil out there,
Yes,
and evil within, right? So maybe if you had more time, just even a couple minutes on that, I think would have been helpful. Take us just to a passage in the New Testament or something.
I think, like, as I'm looking at this point, helpful delivery, and just all the things that it lists out, I think it was very much relevant. Like, you exemplified that in your preaching. Like, you were very courageous in your speaking. You were very upfront. You weren't shying away from anything. You were very just focused on what the text was saying and saying it very clearly to the people. And you weren't using any sort of cliche things, and especially that offer of an invitation was very clear, and that transition to it was really smooth. I think that really helped bring such a large passage down to a very workable level for the people. So,
thank you. That helps.
Yeah, it was great sermon.
Yeah.
I was really encouraged.
Well, all right, gentlemen.
Some guys.
Well,
I have to go run a secret church event, so yeah.
have fun. It was good.
Talk with you both, yeah.
Good getting to know you guys a little bit this semester.
Yeah.
And Lord bless you guys.
I learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we'll all see one another at Glory. That's probably it.
Probably
Sure
it.
will.
All right, brothers.
By the way, Ohio.
Bless you, man.
Bless you too.
All right,
Take
bye-bye.
care.